Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm
That's
fantastic. How's your day going?
pretty good. A little crazy because I'm here with my 2-year-old sleeping, and I thought I wasn't going to be. Um, so we'll see what happens. We might have a visitor during our conversation today.
I'm actually kind of hoping for it.
It has been known to happen. Not on this show because this is my first recording. You're my guinea pig.
I'm okay with that.
Well,
Well, I
thanks.
should survive.
I appreciate it because you know more about this stuff than I do. Um, but that being said, can you kind of introduce yourself? Who are you? How old you are? What's your business? What's your job? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm 28. My name's Jeremy. I run a digital marketing agency called Wolf Riot, and my job basically is to make other people more money. In a nutshell.
And I think a lot of people listening to this probably don't know what digital marketing really is. Do you have a quick answer to that?
Yeah, so basically what I do is I find out what kinds of people are buying the things that my customers sell. So as an example, I work with real estate agents, so they're selling houses, or insurance agents selling life insurance and stuff like that. And I find out what kinds of people are buying this product, and then I put advertisements in front of them on Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, stuff like that.
Got it.
Anybody who has ever watched anything on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram has probably seen an ad from one of my clients at some point in time.
And what kind of clients do you work with? Do you focus on any kind of particular industry?
Yeah, so we really like working with service professionals. So like I just said, like real estate agents, loan officers, insurance agents. I like working with things that are intangible because it's a lot more challenging than maybe selling like popcorn or perfume or anything like that. But we don't necessarily only work with service professionals. I have a military resource website that they basically help people in the military who are moving. They move every couple of years. So they're basically just a resource so that when they move, they have everything they need all in one place. And then I'm working with a hip hop artist, and we just recently got him up over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube from like 8. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's our main source of revenue is from service professionals, but we work a lot with other industries just because it's just keeps things interesting. It keeps us from getting into the habit of doing the same things every day.
And this business is yours. You started it, right?
Right.
And how old were you when you started it?
26, and that was my third business I had started by then.
So 3 businesses by 26. And I know you said you just hit a pretty big milestone in this business, right?
Yeah. So we basically last year were like officially a business about 12 months ago, almost 13 now, and we just hit 6 figures um, this last month, which was just insane because when I started the business, I was donating plasma. And so if anybody isn't aware of what donating plasma is, it's kind of like donating blood, except you're hooked up to a machine for like 45 minutes to an hour, and you have to like pump your arm to pump the blood into the machine. And this machine spins really quickly and it pulls the plasma out of your blood. And they use that to make medications. They use that for people who need infusions and stuff like that. So when I started this business, that was how I made enough money each month, which was like $280 to pay my phone bill so that I could make phone calls to businesses, and my gym membership so that I could stay in good shape and take care of my health.
Wow. So like from ground up, you've built this thing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So, and really that's why I brought you here. I'm looking for people like you who have just gone through everything in life, and are now successful, and finding your own way to be successful, not necessarily subscribing to what other people tell you you should be doing. And that's great for some of us, and for others of us it's not. So I'm hoping you can share a little bit about your younger story, what it was like for you in school, and then kind of just what got you to the point where you started these businesses.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I actually went to Catholic school from kindergarten through to 8th grade. Up until 4th grade, I was actually a pretty good student. My mom had gotten married, and the guy that she married was extremely abusive. He had a serious drug and alcohol problem, and around 4th grade, that started to create a lot of friction and like chaos at home. And so from then on, from 4th grade through until I finished high school, I barely got through school on a day-to-day basis. And there was a lot of time growing up that I was in and out of foster care and group homes, and I was in juvenile hall for a while. So it was like a total mess. And honestly, I didn't start my own business, my first business, until I was almost 21.
What was that like, going through school? And I think when we chatted before, you said you pretty much slept through classes.
Yeah, yeah. So my mom's ex-husband was a methamphetamine user, and so he didn't sleep for days on sometimes. And what he would do at nighttime is he was a mechanic, so he would have me help him to rearrange his 3 or 4 tool bags that he had. At the end of every day, he would go through and he'd spend hours rearranging his tools. Um, and I would be up until about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning most nights, and then I would get back up at 6 in the morning. And me and my sisters would walk to school. We walked about 2 miles to school. So we would walk to school, and a lot of times, I'd just be just tired. I mean, you only get 3 hours of sleep, you're pretty tired. And I really didn't just stay awake. Most of school, I was just sleeping, and I would get in trouble a lot about it. And none of my teachers really knew what was going on at home. And so I would, get done at school and walk home and everything. And what I would typically do is like go to sleep for a couple of hours and eat dinner, and I would try and get whatever homework I had done. But typically, I only really had maybe 30 minutes in a day to get any actual homework done before I was back, working to help rearrange tools or work on a car or whatever else was going on. Um, the only reason I think I was able to get through school is because I've always been somebody who enjoyed reading. So when I would get my books at the beginning of the year, instead of waiting until school started, because usually we got them about 2 weeks beforehand, I would read through them prior to the school year, so that even if I missed almost every class because I wasn't awake, I had a good idea of what was actually going on.
Wow. So you would do your readings, you would get whatever work done you could, and then you would go to school and sleep.
Yeah.
And it sounds like instead of getting supported, you were getting in trouble for that.
Oh yeah, like constantly. And I remember in high school, especially, I had one teacher in particular that a couple of times a week would send me to the principal's office. She would just be like, "You need to stay awake," and I would just tell her, "I can't. I'm tired." And she like, you're here to learn. You're not here to sleep. You need to go to the principal's office if you're not going to stay awake. So, and the I think as an adult now, it wasn't funny then, but as an adult, I look at it and I just think that it was so funny because I would go in the principal's office and fall asleep there.
Yeah.
So it really it didn't affect what was actually going on because I was just living in this very dysfunctional. In high school, I was in group homes. I was at that time, using drugs myself. And so I wasn't sleeping, even though I wasn't in the environment I was anymore. I was just trying to follow the sleep pattern that I had for almost 10 years by that point.
Do you think there's anything that would have made a difference in school for you if you had had somebody reach out or some kind of support? I'm not a big believer in, holding on to our past. We always have to keep moving forward, and it seems like you've totally done that. But I just always wonder, like, if I see a student struggling and I don't know what's going on at home, what could have made that difference? I don't even.
So I think really, if I had had somebody ask me in high school, I would have lied to them. Like I don't, and I have teachers that I know for a fact to this day had no clue what I had gone through. They had no clue that I was a daily drug user, like, because they just saw me as a nice kid. I was never really rude or interruptive or anything. I was just not really mentally present. So if I'd ever been in a situation where somebody would have asked, I don't think I would have been open to actually talking, because I saw I didn't have a positive image of the adults that were around me. And so I think really in a school type situation, the best thing would have been having more exposure to the rest of the world, and more exposure to some of the tools that I learned later on in life for kind of changing the way I thought about things and understanding how the world around me actually worked, and just understanding that I didn't have to be a certain kind of person because of the way I grew up, that it was my own decision. But I need to understand how to fix that in order for me to make my own way.
When did you start realizing those things, like finding out other ways of learning and influencers? Like what led you down that path?
So I was 21. So by the time I was 21, um, I had stopped using most drugs. I was still a daily drug user from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. Smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and I was drinking anywhere from 12 to 20 alcoholic beverages a day for a good 2 or 3 years. And then when I was 21, I left a job that I was extremely unhappy with. And I looked for an opportunity to work from home. And so I was just searching online, found something, and I was like, wow, this looks like I could do this. Like, I'm interested in this. And so I think I paid like $150 or something to become a distributor for a company called Herbalife. And they send you a package when you start with them in particular. And all companies that are similar to this actually do this too. But there's a DVD in there with a training from a guy named Jim Rohn. And one of the things that really changed the way I was thinking was, when I was 21 years old, I thought that if you were wealthy, you were probably a scumbag, you probably a liar, you're a cheater, you stole it, like you just are like the scum of the earth. So I didn't understand how the marketplace worked. I just didn't get it. I thought that was the only way you could ever be successful, is if you cheated people. And this man, Jim Rohn, had talked about how when he was growing up, he had this similar where he blamed politicians and the economy, and taxes are too high, and my negative neighbors, if they'd lend me some money, I'd be able to get ahead, or blah, blah, blah. And he realized that out of all of the things that were on his list that he was blaming for not being successful financially and in his other areas of his life, the only person that could actually have any effect on that wasn't even on the list, and that was him. And so, at 21 years old, I basically, for the first time, came into contact with somebody that had given me the experience of understanding that I had a choice. Like, I could make my own life, and I was the only person who was going to be able to do it. And I had to be willing to accept the fact that the world is always going to basically be a mix of opportunities mixed with difficulty.
Wow. So you had this realization kind of by chance, just looking for a stay-at-home job or work from home job. And
Yeah.
then how did you get yourself to actually take that action? I think it's something most humans struggle with. You know, they have this vision or they have a dream, but they still can't get themselves to take the steps they need. Like what do you attribute your ability to do that?
So there's really two things. One of them I didn't have a whole lot of choice in. It was timing. I had just left a job, so I had no income, and I knew that after hearing that, I knew like, okay, in order for me to change this not having income thing, I'm gonna have to do something. Um, and so the situational things were not having a job and then finding out that I was going to be a dad. But the actual things that I did was I just realized, you know what, like after listening to this one thing in particular, I realized, you know, I have all of these ideas about the world, but I never actually asked why. I've never actually questioned whether or not this is true, and I've never tried to do anything outside of this. So I watched that DVD every day for like a couple of months. I went on YouTube. I started listening to all number of different things from people like Tony Robbins and some of these people. Because prior to that, I had no exposure to that. I didn't know that people even got paid to speak about personal development. I didn't realize that that was a thing. It literally was just not in my scope of understanding the world at all. And I feel like I've been very fortunate. I don't know if this is what I would have been called, that I might be like ADD or ADHD. But the thing about it is, the way my mind works is when I find something that I'm interested in, I have to know everything about it. Like I will just keep learning. I just want to understand it inside and out. So after being exposed to that and being in the situation I realized, you know what, like I need to make some changes. And I just decided in my mind I didn't have a choice.
So you mentioned Tony Robbins. Um, are there any other influencers that you would recommend to say someone who's in the same boat as you are? They don't even know what personal development is. And quite frankly, that was something that I scoffed at until recently. I mean, I thought the whole idea was ridiculous. It was more like, stop being lazy, do what you have to do, and you'll be good. And you know, I have a very different attitude about it now. It has nothing to do with laziness. It's all about finding a way to be the best person that you can be, um, working through the hard stuff, getting, you know, just getting yourself in the zone where you can be you and you can be productive. Um, who would you suggest that anyone listening might check out, whether they're teenagers or their families? What's a good go-to place to start?
I think a really good one for and some parents might not be happy about this one because he curses a lot.
That's okay.
But a really, yeah, I was gonna say a really good one for teenagers and families in general is Gary Vaynerchuk. I think he's really the only other person the only other person I would recommend. I could recommend hundreds of books by this point in my life. But the reason I would recommend him in particular is because he talks about a lot of things that people struggle with that they don't ever think about. So people, you know, young people, especially, and I'm still kind of in this mindset, like I feel sometimes like I should be further ahead in my life than I am. Like I feel like I am behind the clock, like the clock of my life is further ahead than I am. But I could have never gotten to where I am without going through what I went through. So one of the things that's great about Gary Vaynerchuk is he doesn't get caught up in super deep psychological, very intense conversations, he's just like, hey, look, like, don't be impatient. Just, let the course run as it is. And if you're a young person, try lots of things. Don't be scared to fail. Because no matter what, you're going to have, like what people consider failures. And he just really addresses things that on a very basic level, you don't have to analyze. You can listen to it and just be like, oh, you know what? I've never really thought about the fact that I do have time and I don't have to be a millionaire by the time I'm 20 or a millionaire by the time I'm 30. Like, and that might not even be what you want. I know people that make $44,000 a year, and I think I actually heard Gary Vaynerchuk say something similar. Totally happy. They have everything that they need. They're not worried about anything. They have as much time with their family as they want. I mean, they're completely secure with what they have. And then I know people on the other end of that make a couple $100,000 or more a year, and they seem to me like they're always stressed out. And they have enough money that they could work less, and they probably wouldn't be as stressed out, but they still are. And so it's really, he's great for anybody who's looking to just get past some of these basic things that we all basically go through.
And I think it goes back to a lot of creating the life that you want. Are you looking to be super rich? Are you looking to be time and location independent? Are you looking to spend as much time with your family as possible? Are you looking to be an influencer, make an impact? And all of these options exist. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive. Some of them can play very well together. So, I think that's a good point. Although I have to say, I don't follow Gary V very closely because his energy exhausts me. He strikes me as a person who's always like, never stop, always work, do this, do that. And I'm like, whoa, just thinking about that exhausts me.
Yeah, that's actually like him, because I the way I grew up, and there's a lot of aspects of growing up that weren't all that great for me, but one of the things that I learned was how to be very independent. And I was taught from a very, very early age how to basically keep going when you don't want to go. And some of that was actually taught to me, and some of it I learned through the experiences I had of just dealing with somebody who was on drugs and extremely abusive. So I think the best, and the reason why I don't want to just list a bunch of people, is I think the best thing to do is find a problem that you have that you're not happy about having, and be willing to have an open mind about other people's opinion on it, and go and look. And the cool thing about the way the internet works, especially, is that people are in a position that if something is extremely valuable, it gets a lot of people's attention. It gets watched a lot. It gets talked about a lot. So if you have a problem where you're like, you know what, I've been depressed for 3 months and I don't know what to do about it, you can literally go on Google or YouTube and find a video about how to overcome depression, or how to be more patient, or how do I be a happier person. Like, there's a bunch of different videos out there, like the 3 steps to being happier. And it might not be as simple as just having these 3 steps, but you might watch that video and then watch another one, and soon enough you find what works for you. And that's how a lot of my own personal development has come about, is I've just taken the parts of things that made sense for me and added those to the other parts of things that made sense for me from other people.
Now I'm being told, oh, I know why. Sorry. I'm being told that my meeting's going to run out, and I think it's because you were on there twice.
That's okay.
I'm thinking. Sorry.
Well, we can jump back on and just edit it.
Yeah, let's do that. I will send over another link.
Yeah, we could finish up this one. We still have almost 10 minutes.
Okay, that works. Thanks.
Yeah.
Now I have to think about what I was thinking about again. I remember what it was. I love the whole idea of you kind of being curious and open-minded about a problem that you have, and about your, I guess, preconceived notions as well. Like, I think earlier you said you had all of these expectations or preconceived notions about life, and then started to question them. You know, there are these facts that we take as given, but when you start to question and wonder and be curious about it, then you realize maybe it can open up a whole new path. You know, you can change your mind about something, or just open a door to something you didn't even know existed or was possible.
Yeah.
Um,
That's, I was going to say that's like part of the reason why I read as much as I do. You know, there's a really great quote. I think it's from like Plato or Socrates, one of those guys. But he said, you know, the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. And it's really easy to get caught up in the like, I know this stuff mentality. Like I've gone through that a bunch of times in my life, and it, you know, leads to arguments a lot of the times, but it doesn't actually allow you to be any better than you were yesterday. It doesn't allow you to expand the way you think at all. And there's so many, one of the biggest problems that I have with the education system in general is that it makes learning so mentally painful that when people get out of school, 91% of Americans never read another book in their life. That's how bad it is that they never, school is so bad that people never read another book in their lives. And there are so many interesting books. I just finished a book the other day. And this is a really psychologically intense book. You're reading through, and he's talking about kind of dense subjects. But like half of the book, I was just laughing because the writer was so funny. He's just got such a funny way of explaining things. And, you know, in school, if I had taken a class, they wouldn't have allowed me to read a book like that because of some of the things that he says in this book. But at the end of the day, what is going to be more helpful? A book that has me laughing, that I'm learning from while I'm laughing, or a book that makes me so unhappy that I never read another one again?
yeah, I agree with you 100%. And that's a lot of what I'm looking to do here with this show and with the students I work with is show them that there are these other things out there that they're not finding in school, and maybe that their parents don't know about. And okay, maybe they have some curse words or whatever it is, but you know, you can't tell me that these kids aren't hearing those words somewhere else. Um, and that if they get a hold of that information now, they can be inspired now. They don't have to wait to just get through high school, because that's a lot of what my students are doing. They're just trying to get through high school until it's over, and then they can start their lives. And no, I want everyone to start their lives now. Don't wait.
Yeah. Well, when we met in September, there was a little girl at Thrive that was selling suckers. She runs her own business. She's 9 years old. She might be 10 now. But at Thrive, she was 9 years old. She runs her own company called Child Hunger Sucks. And she runs a nonprofit where she sells suckers and then uses that money to feed families that are homeless. And so if you see something wrong in the world, this is the biggest, like, best lesson I learned about business. If you're unhappy about something in the world, that means you can start a business around it and fix it. You don't have to wait for somebody else to take care of it. You don't have to tell the government, hey, why aren't you guys fixing this, or your neighbors or anything like that. You can literally say, hey, there's a problem in the world. I'm going to find a way to get it solved. You start a business around it and be unbelievably successful. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and I don't remember what their other partner was, but the three guys who started PayPal are all extremely successful now. And really, what were they doing? They said, well, there's a problem. There's no way to, you know, share money on the internet right now. So we're going to find a way to make that a possibility so that people who are continents away can do that. And in solving a problem like that, all of those guys that started that company are now looked at as visionaries, and they're looked to for advice because they basically just acknowledged a problem and decided to fix it.
Yeah, and the other thing I got from Thrive that I think was a new message for me, and it seems like for you too, it's okay to make a lot of money with your business or solving a problem, and it doesn't make you scammy. It doesn't make you a bad person. In fact, you can be hugely impactful if you are making a lot of money, because you can do good with your money. You can solve problems, like you just mentioned. And that, I think sometimes we have this idea that we need to make a lot of money because we want to be rich, or making a lot of money is bad, so we shouldn't do it, and we should just be content with, average. um but just, it's okay to shoot for the moon.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, look, if you're the kind of person who actually cares, which is the majority of people, by the way, if not, we would be murdering each other like crazy. Like the human race would not exist if the majority of us didn't care about each other. The world has more good people than bad. If you're one of those people, the only way you can have a massive impact is if you make enough money. There's a quote, there's no nobility in poverty. There's no way making money is going to make you a worse person. If you're the kind of person that actually cares and you do want to make changes in the world, the only way you can have an impact is if people know who you are, and that requires money. You need to be able to pay to be in front of the people that you want to be able to help.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something I'm just starting to wrap my mind around. I listened to a podcast called Do Well and Do Good. And one of the episodes was about the girl, her name is Dorothy, and she interviewed Chris Harder, who spoke at Thrive, that we both went to.
Yeah.
And it was all about, like, it's okay to think big. It's okay to make money. And that just made such an impact on me.
Yeah. It was something that I was kind of aware of before Thrive. But I just liked that they had actually driven home, like, hey, look, this is a way that you can build your business so that you can not just have an impact in your marketplace, but have an impact in the other areas of your life that are important.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Gary Vee, who you mentioned before, you seem like a go get 'em kind of person. I know, you told me you're up at like 3 a.m. or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get up at 3 o'clock, and my morning routine has been a little bit different this week, but typically what I'll do is I get up, I will, do what you got to do when you wake up, go to the bathroom and shave and all that stuff. And then I will have some kind of caffeine, and I walk to the gym. It's about a mile from my house, close to a mile and a half. Sit in the sauna for 15 minutes, and I meditate while I'm in the sauna. And then when I'm done in the sauna, I will lift weights, and then I do about 30 minutes of pretty intense cardio where I'm, like running for 30 minutes, and then I'll walk back home. So on an average day, I probably do somewhere around 6 or 7 miles worth of cardiovascular exercise and about 45 minutes worth of weightlifting. And then, after I eat breakfast and shower, I'm usually at my computer by 7:30 in the morning. And I'll work anywhere from 7:30 until 5:30 at night. Sometimes I'll keep going until 6:30 or 7, and then I crash out before 8 o'clock.
How or why, I guess, why do you work out? Like, do you attribute a lot of your success to that habit?
So when I first started working out, it was really just because I was at that point. I started about 7 years ago when I first got into entrepreneurship. And the reason I started exercising initially was because I had been in just such bad shape from all of the drinking and drugs and smoking cigarettes, that I just felt like garbage all the time. And I was like, if I'm going to be working a lot, I should probably do something that is going to keep me energized and something that's going to help me to just feel better and look better. And I kind of was lucky because my first business was a supplement. It was a company that, sold protein powders and vitamins and stuff. So that was a big focus at that point, because I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to be talking to people about their health and taking care of themselves, I should probably do that. At this point, honestly, it's really two things. For a long time, I was a really angry person. And when I first started exercising, I realized that that was a great way to be constructively angry. And then after about 45 minutes to an hour of being constructively angry, you basically have it all out. And the other thing is it just keeps me mentally sharp. And I realize that I'm going to have to live in the same body the rest of my life. And if I'm going to be confined to the same body the whole time I'm alive, I might as well at least enjoy the way it feels to live in my body, right? I don't like the idea of really, I mean, there's a very, very present fear of getting to 60, 70 years old, having another 20 or 30 years left of life in me, and not being able to enjoy them because I didn't take care of my health.
Yeah. And, I think that's something that a lot of us don't realize, how crappy we really feel until we start taking care of ourselves through what we're eating, how we're exercising or moving our bodies. And then suddenly we realize how much better we feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so important. And I think we are going to have a 2-year-old visitor in a couple of seconds. I hear some noises in the other room.
Yeah, it started out honestly just as a necessity that it really made sense to do it because of the business I was in. And really it just became another avenue for me to try and explore like what I'm capable of. I think we miss out a lot on that growing up. I don't think that there are as many people who find something that they physically enjoy doing, that gives them an opportunity to really test themselves. Go ahead.
Yeah, like finding new limits, and then
Yeah.
once you reach a limit or once you get to a goal, then what's the next one? Because there can always be a next one for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, there's countless numbers of studies that have been done showing how much better your brain functions. I mean, people who exercise regularly typically suffer lower levels of depression. There are just so many different things that are positively impacted by exercise that I was just like, okay, like this is a very easy way for me to keep my emotions in check, which up until I was 21, it was pretty consistent that I would have a lot of emotions that I didn't want to have, and I had no way of kind of combating those other than just dealing with being depressed or anxious or unhappy or mad.
And you're trying to get in. You know, to go back to the whole school system thing, I listened to a podcast lately where someone was talking about how schools really are not built for boys. It's a lot of sit down, be quiet, listen to me, very little opportunity for movement and exercise. Kids are told all the time to stop fidgeting, and that drives me crazy. And this person was saying that, they need to have a room, like a padded room where the guys can just go and punch and be angry and scream and yell, and that's okay. But instead, what we're doing is taking away recess younger and younger. I taught second grade in a public school, and there was no recess. We were not allowed to have recess with our kids. We were not allowed to take breaks to play a game with our kids.
That's fun.
Like, how are they going to learn if they have to be on all the time? Adults don't do that.
Well, and it's interesting because, like all of the things you just said that children are told to do, right? Pay attention, sit down, stop fidgeting, calm down, focus. Like even adults that I know a lot of adults at this point in my life. I mean, out of the 2,300 people I know on Facebook, I know and have talked to at least 1,900 to 2,000 of them. The majority of the people that I have on my Facebook right now, on my personal profile, I've actually talked to them, and none of them know how to sit down, focus, concentrate, right? And nobody teaches that either. And it's interesting to me that that is the default in schools, but there's never a lesson taught on how to focus. There's never a lesson taught on how to put your energy into doing something other than, like for kids especially, like running around. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, they're supposed to play.
Yeah.
Kids are really supposed to play. And instead we're teaching serious academics in like preschool when the kids need to run around and play. And we're breeding a population of students who don't know how to interact socially because they don't have time to be social and play. It's all learning.
Well, and as an adult, like that's something that I've tried to work into my business, and it's interesting because I don't run my business the way I think a lot of people envision a business, right? Most people envision a business being there's a bunch of people in suits in an office space. They'll have desks and all this stuff. And somebody asked me the other day because they saw my setup in my bedroom. They're like, you use a card table for your business? I said, yeah. And they're like, well, why don't you get a desk? And I'm like, why would I waste money on a desk? I was in a desk all of school and I wasn't comfortable. Why would I buy one as an adult so I could be uncomfortable too? And a big part of what we try to do is, how do we make fun of what we're doing? How do we make it enjoyable? And I mean, I make a lot of phone calls on a day-to-day basis, and I'm trying to play games that nobody even knows about while I'm doing it, just so that it's more fun for me.
Yeah, gamification, that's kind of the term we see in education, has become so big, turning everything into a game. And it's funny because my husband and I are going through this financial program, and it gives you a whole different way of thinking about your finances. It's kind of similar to the Dave Ramsey method, if you know him.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody that's listening to this knows him, but that's okay.
I'm not a huge fan, but I'm familiar with his work.
Yeah, so it's not the Dave Ramsey extreme, but it's kind of based on those ideas. This is not advocate for like zero debt, pay everything in cash. You know, it's not that extreme, but it's funny because my husband has found himself turning everything into a game. And we were talking about it the other day, and for the first time, it's like working for him because he's turned it into a game. So I think that's a really good point too.
I do that in almost every aspect of my life, and there's times that I am in a public place playing a game that nobody else is aware they're playing with me, and I have to keep myself from bursting out laughing. Like I'll be sitting in the sauna and somebody will walk in after me, and I'm just like, I'm not leaving until they leave. Like they're gonna leave before I leave, and they don't even know they're playing. Or somebody will jump on a treadmill next to me, and I start racing them, and they don't know that I'm racing them. And really, it isn't about beating them. It's just like, I mean, to be quite honest, I don't like doing cardio at all. That's actually part of why I walk to the gym, is because I hate doing it. So I'm like, okay, well, if I can put myself in a position to do something that I'm not interested in doing, when I come into a situation where I have to do something that I don't want to do, but it's going to benefit my business, or it's going to benefit my relationships, or it's going to help somebody else, it's going to be easier. Because if I can go do cardio at 3:00 in the morning, I can sure enough handle this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important, is for people to realize, like, sometimes we have to embrace the suck. I forget who says that. David Goggins, maybe?
Yeah.
Like, we just have to do it. Like, we are all going to face things we don't want to do, and we have to learn to suck it up and do them.
Yeah.
We can't always avoid everything. And then, like you said too, making fun of either things that suck, or at least finding good things of the things that don't suck.
Yeah.
Especially with the students who, you know, I'm like talking to with this show and their families, is they're sitting through school and they're thinking, man, this really sucks. I'm not learning. It's a waste of my time. You know, they've, in a lot of cases, they've got to do something just to get through it.
Well, in a easy way and a fun way for students, especially, to do this is to read a little bit ahead in your books and try and figure out if you can come up with the questions before the teacher does. So make a game out of seeing who can, like, if you can figure out what questions the teacher's going to ask, and see if you can't, based off of what you've already read, predict what's going to happen next, right? I mean, and we do this when we watch movies anyway, right? Like when people sit down to watch a movie, or TV shows, it's a story. So you're just building a story and making a game out of it. So instead of it being something where you're in a classroom and you're being talked at in a lot of situations, you are now an active participant in figuring out what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So any words of wisdom or things you wish you had known? Like if you could say something really inspiring to the students who were sitting in school, you know, thinking they're waiting until they can drop out, or they're waiting until school is over so that they can really start their lives. Like, what do you want them to know right now so that they don't have to wait any longer?
So honestly, like probably 2 or 3 things. If you have a dream, you have a goal, there's something that you know you want to do with your life, do not ever let somebody tell you you can't do it. Chances are, if somebody tells you that you can't do it, it's because they've already given up on their own dreams. And it took me a very, very long time to get comfortable with this, because I had family members that would tell me, you know, if I was doing something, it was a really bad idea, or it was stupid. Or like when I started this business, one of my sisters had actually had a conversation with somebody else in my family about basically like he needs to just go get a real job.
I get that all the time. Why don't you just get a real job? It would be easier.
Yeah. And, you know, because of my meditation practice in particular, I realized that she wasn't saying that because she like doesn't like me, or because she wants to be like an asshole about anything. She was saying that because she's worried that something like that, I'm going to face some kind of pain. I'm going to have some kind of situation I'm going to have to go through that isn't going to be fun, right? Most of the time when people try to dissuade you from following your dreams, it isn't because they don't want you to be happy. It's because they're worried that you're going to fail like they did and go through whatever pain they went through when they gave up on their dreams. And they just don't realize that had they stayed with their dreams, that pain wouldn't have mattered. So that's one thing that I would definitely say. The other one is like, don't sweat the small stuff. No matter how well prepared you are for anything, you're going to run into problems. I mean, just before we started this interview, I had 3 different text messages come through from clients and my employees, and all of them were problems, right? They were all situations. I had one person say, "Oh, I'm not happy with this." I had another person say, "Hey, we have to do this for so-and-so by the end of today. And chances are we're not going to be able to do that for so-and-so by the end of today." So even where I'm at in my business right now, that I feel extremely blessed, and I feel like, wow, this is incredible that we've been able to do so much in a very short period of time. it took 7 years to get to where I am right now. Just because I built my business to where it is in a year doesn't mean it didn't take the previous 6 years of trial and error. So when I say like don't sweat the small things, like realize that there's going to be speed bumps on any road that you walk down, and the you can't necessarily prepare for all of them. And really, like, if you believe in God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, like there's going to be tests. Like you can't win a championship if you don't compete. And so beyond that, I mean, if you have a dream, you have a goal, you have to be willing to 100% commit to it. And that means that sometimes you're not going to be available to go to parties. You're not going to be available to spend money on things that aren't going to get you closer to that. I mean, I worked from home for, out of the last 12 months, 10 out of the last 12 months, I spent working alone. And all of my free time I dedicated towards taking courses, studying, reading books, writing different ideas. I mean, in the morning, I write down 5 new business ideas every day. And those are all things that, you know, I had to be willing to make some sacrifices in order to get to where we are now. And it's not going to stop with those sacrifices.
Sorry, the little one's pulling on my background. Let me see if she wants to draw a picture. Ada, do you want to sit down and draw a picture? Can you draw quietly? Okay, thank you. All right, that's how this works.
But I mean, that's the last part of that, I think, is really like the key to success in general, is being willing to 100% believe that you are capable of doing it and putting the commitment behind it, which is like, look, if I want to make a sale in my business, I have to talk to a minimum of 50 new people and actually present my products and services to them. That's a lot of people to talk to make one sale. So at the end of every day, when I look back on my day and I say, okay, if I want to make 5 sales this month, I know I need to talk to 250 people. That means that I have to be willing to make every one of those phone calls, send out every follow-up email. And look, like, sending emails isn't really fun. Like, I don't sit down at my email and be like, oh my God, I can't wait to send out all these emails. I don't see friends going out on the weekends to the bar or going to a concert or buying cars and doing all this stuff. And I don't see that stuff and think to myself, like, wow, that must be really miserable. I see it and I'm like, wow, that must be a lot of fun for them. And that's great for them. But I know that in order for me to take what I'm trying to do where I want to take it, I can't waste money on things that aren't going to help me get there, like going to concerts or going out drinking or buying a car and having a $600 a month car payment or doing any of these other things that really are just a way to mask insecurity and put yourself in a situation where people can see you and you can feel like you're important. If you just make yourself important and work towards your goals, you're not going to need to feel like that. You're not going to need somebody else to validate you because you'll know that you're doing what needs to be done.
I like to say that when you have that dream or that vision, it becomes too important to keep inside. And when you get to that point, you're just fiercely unstoppable. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
What about for the young people listening who may not have a dream or a vision yet, and maybe don't even realize the importance of it? Like, how can they get themselves to that point? I mean, I didn't have a vision until I went to Thrive in September, and that's what really helped me get on the path that I'm on. Before, I was just going to be, you know, a tutor, and I was helping lots of kids. And we almost lost the backdrop there. And, you know, it was great for the kids who I was working with, but now I realize I have an even bigger message to send. And I'm at a point where I can't not send it. But
Yeah.
what's that journey look like for someone who doesn't have a dream or a vision or a goal yet?
So, one thing I would recommend to any person living on this planet whatsoever would be to read a book called Think and Grow Rich. Um, I read that book on a yearly basis. Every year I reread it. The second thing is I would say write down ideas every morning. Like if you need to set a reminder in your phone to go off at like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever every morning, and write down like 5 business ideas. And they don't have to be good. Chances are most of them aren't going to be good. Like it's just the nature of doing this. But that's one of the only ways really to get your mind working creatively. And like going back to the school system, right? Like there's not really a whole lot of education in the space of being creative. And so the only way that I've found and the most practical way has been to just force myself to write 5 ideas, realize that 99 out of 100 are going to be garbage, and then take the one and make use of it. And so beyond those two things, you know, just be willing to experience a lot, try a lot of different things, and ask yourself, you know, what are you interested in? What do you like? What are the things that you find yourself talking about a lot? What do you like when you watch TV or you watch movies or you do any of these other social things that you do? What is it that why is it that you're interested in those things? And then, you know, just figure yourself out. And the thing is, I didn't know that I was really interested in marketing and advertising until I had run 2 different businesses that, you know, the second one I really didn't like a whole lot. Like I just got to a point that I was like, man, this is suffocating me. And I spent a lot of time, you know, you can take personality and aptitude tests and write down what ideas keep coming up in both of those and just kind of say, okay, well, like, let's go find this out. And if you're a young person, go interview people, call a local business, start an Instagram or a YouTube channel and go interview different businesses. Say, hey, I'm, you know, 16 years old. My name is John, and I'm interested in finding out more about business. I don't know anything. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'd be interested in interviewing you for 30 minutes. Would you be willing to talk to me? And the interesting thing is, like we talked about near the beginning of this, is the majority of people in the world want to help each other. They're really interested in each other. And so doing stuff like that and just getting a wide range of things, because when I left school, I thought, you know, you go to college and you become like a doctor, a lawyer, an astronaut, a teacher, or, you know, like a school bus driver. Like I really only thought there were maybe like 10 professions in the whole world. I just had no clue. Or your movie actor, right? And there are hundreds of thousands of different jobs out there. So the only way to really know is to just go experiment, learn from the people that are doing a lot of different things, and try and figure yourself out.
Sorry, I'm on bot time.
Oh, it's all good.
You can see we've lost the backdrop and now the little. So can you say hi? Say hi.
Hi.
How many people are going to be seeing you? Yeah. This is Ada.
What's up, Ada?
I don't think she can hear you. So because I'm going to have to go very soon, is there anything else you would like to mention to the folks who are listening? You know.
Yeah, I actually, you know, the one group of people that might be watching that we haven't really talked to or about at all really is parents. You know, as a parent, as somebody who before I became a parent was very much worried about whether or not I could handle being a parent and whether or not I could do a good enough job. Because I didn't want to have kids because I was worried I would mess them up, you know? I I was I would say to parents, you know, give your children room to explore. And you know, I know this is hard because as a parent, like we all have a certain level of programming that we went through growing up, right? We had our parents or our guardians or whoever that displayed for us how it was that we were supposed to behave. And we don't really have a lot of time to think about whether or not we're actually thinking about things before we do them. And so I would say, you know, for parents in particular, be willing to give your kids space to explore, read to your children, get them interested in learning so that when they're done with school, they don't hate learning because there's so much, I mean, like biographies and history and psychology, and there's like just all these really good books out there that anytime you have a problem as a parent, you can go get a book and be like, okay, like here's a couple of ideas. Like I'm not as patient as I would like to be. Why don't I read a book about patience and try and see if I can use some of this to be more patient, because I would like to be more patient with my children. And really, like, kids don't care what you say to them. They care what you show them. And that's how they learn. You know, I grew up in a house full of people who smoke cigarettes, who always told me how terrible it was smoking cigarettes and that I should never smoke because I'll never be able to quit. It's the worst thing in the world, blah, blah, blah. And at 13 years old, I started smoking cigarettes. And within a year or two, I was smoking 2 packs a day. So with parents in particular, you know, like be aware of the fact that your children are going to mimic what they see. They're not going to listen to what you say. And you know, up until they're 7 years old, they are basically in a state of hypnosis. They are literally just absorbing everything that's going on around them. And if you can be aware of that, you can really program your children in a way that they're going to grow up to be successful. They're going to grow up to be a good person. They're going to grow up to, you know, live in a way that they enjoy, but also like on a selfish note that you can be proud of, that you can say, hey, like, you know what, I did a damn good job. And I'm just so grateful that I gave my child the space they needed to experience things, and that I worked with them to allow them to grow in their own space, but also guided them towards being the kind of adult I would like to see more of in the world.
Yeah, I think that's really great. The whole modeling, you know, what we expect. And I like to add to that too, that accepting that maybe your child will be different from you and that that's okay. They don't have to turn into little versions of you, giving them the space to do that exploration and then be who they are within that, I think is really great. Well, thanks. This was really awesome. You were an amazing guinea pig.
Thank you.
I hope you don't mind that we ended up with some company, but
not at all.
We'll see what happens on YouTube with a 2-year-old in my lap.
Yeah, she's totally fine. She's super cute.
She actually did a pretty good job. She lasted in here quite a while playing on the floor before the background or the backdrop went down. I was impressed. So, all right, Ada, say bye-bye. Bye-bye.